friends, now, I would like to bring your attention towards our Vedic literature. Here, for today's discussion, there is this very interesting concept. It is actually given in Chandogya Upanishad. Chandogya Upanishad is considered as a very practical kind of Upanishad. Though the fundamental philosophy is around that absolute Purusha in all the Upanishads, but this Upanishad is much easier to understand because it connects to our day-to-day life. So here there is a story about a student whose name is Shvetaketu, and he is the son of a sage Uddalaka. And Shvetaketu is a very, very talented student who has mastered almost all the existing knowledges that were there at that time. All the vidyas that are there. You call it music, you call it, astrology, you call it the learning of the shastras, everything, all the different domains. He was a great scholar, and he would openly say that, my learning is complete and anybody can ask me any question. So once he reaches a kingdom, where there is a king whose name is Pravahana Jaivali, and this particular king asks him that he gives him due respect as a Brahmana, and then asks him, sir, do you say that your learning is complete? Then the boy very proudly says that, yes, my learning is complete. I have learned everything from my father. Then he says, then I would like to ask you some questions. So would you give me answers? So he says, yes, please. And then these are the questions that the king asks Shvetaketu. Do you know where people go after they depart from this world? When people die, where do they go? So Shvetaketu is not able to answer this. Then he asks the next question. Do you know where from people come when they are reborn into this world? Do you know, have you any idea of the paths along which the soul ascends, the paths being known as Devayana and Pitrayana? Why is it that the world is not filled with people and overflowing? Always the world is able to contain people and it is never flooded with them. What is the reason for this? Do you know what are the 5 oblations that are offered and how the 5th oblation as liquid becomes a human being? So this is yajna, ahutis. Oblations means ahuti. So to all the 5 questions, Shvetaketu is mum, he is not able to answer, and he feels very ashamed, and he runs back to his father and asks and tells his father, why did you tell me that my learning is complete when I just don't know the answers what the king asked me? And then the father also, becomes humble. He says that if I myself only don't know, how would I tell that to you? Then he tells, now the only way we have is we have to go to the king and become his disciples. So, but Shvetaketu denies. Shvetaketu says, no, I don't want to face him again. I am feeling very humiliated. So father himself goes to the king and very humbly, he asks. So the king offers him all the wealth in the world, all the riches that are there in the world, but the father does not deter. He says, I do not want anything else. I just want this knowledge that you have. The king is little perplexed. Then he tells, okay, let us you be here for some time, and that some time is almost a year. That is the amount of time that the king takes, to finally call father and tell him that it is a great secret that was kept among Kshatriyas, and it is for the first time that it is being shared with a Brahmana. It is because of this secret that all Kshatriyas always became king and so powerful. But now I think the time has come that it should go to Brahmanas and to the common man. But it was a kept secret for many, many years. So it is the kind of a story that goes on, and fundamentally in the story or in answering these questions, this is all that is given in Chandogya Upanishad. When you talk about the knowledge of 5 fires, the Panchagni Vidya. So I would like to generate this interest in all of you. Whatever I will explain will be a very, very superficial understanding due to lack of time. But if you can read Chandogya Upanishad commentary by Swami Chinmayananda, or any Swami Ramakrishna mission book, you will be able to get a much deeper insight. So here, these 5 fires that have been described, they are actually certain meditations, contemplative aspects. They are the processes of attunement of the mind to higher levels of being. And therefore, they are called as Vidyas because they are specific types of knowledge. Now, these are 5 kind of yajnas that King describes and tells that we all know that yajna is a process where we need fire, we need different kind of ahutis that are put into the fire, and then there comes the prasadam of that yajna. Okay, so yajna overall, what you can understand is it is a process where different forces in the environment interact with each other for a specific purpose, for a spiritual purpose, and give a particular output. Now that output is used as the input for another process, and this is how the processes from the higher realms to the material realms, they are connected with each other. Now this is very beautiful here, that the first yajna that happens is a yajna that happens in the higher cosmos, where there are celestial forces, there is sun, there are different directions, there are different kind of Vedic chants, different kind of subtler aspect of the karmas that are there, and they interact with each other. And it is in this particular plane, that there is a formation of the soma. Now, this soma is a very subtle essence, or you can say a very subtle kind of a cloud-like kind of a thing, that is the subtle body of an individual. Now, how does, when a person dies, how does the person reaches there at a state of soma? There first I will describe, and then we will come down how the birth happens. So according to Vedic text, what happens is, once you leave the body, as Anupji was telling, that the prana, all the pranas start merging into each other, and then ultimately into the Udana prana, the upward moving prana. It starts from the feet and hand, they become colder and colder, and then it becomes centralized and comes to the head region. And there are different openings through which this concentrated prana can leave. Okay. Now, this different kind of openings also determine, according to Vedas, which kind of yana or which direction it is going to go. In fact, they tie, you might have seen that in the Vedic ritual, they tie the toes together. Why they tie is because they want to close the opening of the anus, okay, or the pelvic region. Those openings they want to close, because they do not want the prana to leave through those openings. So then you see some people die with their mouth open, some people die with their eyes open, some people dies with secretion from their nose or secretion from their ears. So this is from the Naudware Pure Dehe. This is a 9-door city of 9 doors, and depending on the kind of life the individual has lived, the kind of karmashaya the individual has built, it will choose a particular door to go out. Okay, and Vedic scholars are able to just see the door through which the person, the pranic sharira, has left the body, and are able to determine which particular loka that particular individual is going to go, that sukshma sharira is going to go with all. So ultimately what happens is, when you leave the body, initially for 10 days, the pranic connection with the body still remains, and it is mostly connected through the navel region. So the navel region still connects to the prana, and the Udana prana is still getting activated there. And even, you know, when you take the body or around the body, the individual doesn't believe, is not able to believe that that he has died. So because everything else is there, the individual is able to hear, he is able to see, he is able to get a feel of everything. It is definitely not happening through the senses. It is happening in a subtle way through mind only, through the pranic perceptivity only. But he is able to feel everything. And initially, you know, if there is bondage to the body and the individual has no knowledge, he actually feels that probably, you know, I am just in a deep sleep, or I am in some coma and I will wake up. He tries to push back the pranic body into the body, but doesn't succeed. The gravity doesn't allow that. Now the gravity is against him. Till now gravity was pulling him down. Now the gravity pushes him up. The gravity doesn't allow him to come down, but he tries a lot to come down. And then for the initial period of time till the body is burnt, you know, especially we break the head and all those processes are done. It is then that the individual comes to this kind of a sudden shock that, oh, now body is not there. Till now I felt that I am the body. Now what is this? So it is then that realization comes that there is another kind of a journey that is going to begin now, and my whole existence is not just the body. So it is after the body is destroyed, you know, then the individual develops that kind of a wisdom that there is no other way that I can come down now. I have to go up only. And then with this kind of understanding, the Udana prana becomes more activated. And still, you know, till the 13th day, you know, it takes that much of a time for an individual to actually realize that he has to move ahead, he has to go ahead, and depending on the karma, those forces also get activated. But till then, the individual remains, you know, in the surroundings where he has lived, among the people that he has been seeing, and he is able to, you know, perceive whatever that goes on. But after that 13th day, the upward journey begins, and there are two kind of main yanas that have been told. One is called as the Pitrayana, other is called as the Devayana. In fact, Bhagavad Gita in the 8th chapter, you see a detailed description of timing of leaving the body. It is if it is the Shukla Paksha, if it is early morning time, then it is most likely to be a Devayana. If it is Krishna Paksha, if it is dense night, it is most likely to be a Pitrayana. And there are mixed pathways also that go. And then you reach a particular realm. Okay, there it remains in the form of a very subtle kind of a energy cloud that it remains. And also, you know, when this karmic forces unfold themselves and the other cosmic forces in those realms come together, ultimately this particular Sukshma Sharira forms a Soma. Now this Soma is, you can say that Chandogya Upanishad says that it is on the moon only that this happens. Okay, it is on the moon or around the moon that these forces gather. Once the Soma is formed, first they are even in the higher realms, and then once their actions and everything that are processed there, then they come down. And when they descend down, they go around the moon, and these energy clouds become little dense and get a glow. That is called as Soma. Now, from here, we may perceive them as stars, or you may call it some glowing bodies that are there. Now, these bodies, you know, which are glowing, which have a glow, their glow depends on their karma. So the higher the glow, the more intense the glow, the more it appears that the person has been able to evolve in his previous life, and greater the kind of a, you can say, the freedom that particular Soma has. So it is like you do this Google Earth, you can zoom in and go anywhere that you want, you can see anywhere that you want to see. And the Vedic literature is very clear that it is we that choose our parents rather than our parents choosing us. So this particular soma that is there, it stays there for a certain amount of time. It comes as a result of the yajna that happens when the processing of the karma takes place. Soma is formed, and different kind of individual, depending on their karmic balance, the intensity of soma, have the freedom to choose the womb. Okay, so a person who, like we see in Bhagavad Gita also, there is a mention of yoga bhrashta. So he takes birth into who has ascended a lot in the path of yoga, but in the last moment he gets deviated, gets confused. So what happens to such a person, whether he just dies or withers away like a cloud? That is what Arjuna asks, and Krishna tells no, this person is able to choose the yogis as his parents and take birth. So we see in Sant Jnaneshwar's case, all the siblings that were born reached moksha, but they were born to very highly evolved parents, one after another. So the kind of karma that you do, that kind of freedom you have of choosing the womb. So it is like Osho says that he waited for 200 years because he wanted to have a birth only from a particular couple, because he wanted that kind of a hardware to evolve. Because his software should be supported by a hardware that will not limit his software. So then once these kind of things happen, then your karma, your samskaras, your desires play a very important role. If I was very much attached to my family, I will again want to go closer to that family only. So that is why people say that this is the grandmother only who has come as the grandchild, or her nature resembles more like her grandfather or great grandfather or something like that. So this is very much possible if the karmas are such and there is a lot of attachment to the family. Then usually people around us in different lives, they are similar people. In some life they become friend, in some life they become our spouse, in some life they become our father, mother, sister. In those ways, these relationships, because the soma, when it comes with its own samskaras, it can keep happening. But you also have the freedom, you suddenly can leave all your attachment and you want to go to Brazil and take birth there. You can see there is a force that tells us that, okay, that is also possible. But generally, people go with their samskara and keep taking birth. It is here the question comes that one who has lived a life of a beggar, he would like to take birth in the family of an Ambani family. He will have a desire like that and he would like to go there. So why can't a person do like that? A person, whatever desire that he has. So here the important point, is of karma. So there will be huge queue, of people who want money, and everybody would be aligning to take birth in Ambani family. But only those who have greater glow will get a chance. So others with lesser glow will have to settle down with lesser rich family, or it is like that. In the same way, whatever you prefer in life, you want more spiritual people, there will be a queue there. You want womb that is more physically strong. You want womb that is of a certain kind of a artist. For everything, the womb is considered very, very precious. And here the karma plays a very important role. So once this soma decides in a particular way to manifest, then the soma descends down and actually remains in the form of rain clouds. The clouds that are floating in the sky, these are all ready to be born souls, Sukshma Shariras that have now densened themselves. And here, another yajna takes place, in the rain cloud. The lightning is, they say, is the fire of that yajna that is happening. And ultimately in that process, the second yajna takes place, and the outcome of this second yajna is the raindrop. So when the raindrops fall, it is in the raindrops, the Chandogya Upanishad says that these jivas descend on the earth again. And then they go into the earth, and from the earth, through the roots of the plants, they go into the food. You know, you would have heard these stories in our mythology, where a sage comes and gives a mango to a queen, and the queen eats half mango and gives half mango to a cow, and both of them become pregnant. And so here it is very important. It is the food that you eat. You know, it also has certain kind of that jiva goes into that food. So it is not that all raindrops or all grains of food will have that. So if you eat a bowl of rice, probably one grain of rice will have that component, that jiva in that. So that is eaten by a man, and within the man, then that particular jiva that has entered through that grain of rice goes into that particular sperm. So here, when at the earth, you know, when the raindrop comes, when all the forces join, sunlight, earth, water, everything, that yajna takes place, and ultimately you get food as the prasada of the yajna. Then this food enters into the body of the man, and then here the prana becomes the fire on which this oblation of food is given, and his senses, you know, become the contributor to this yajna. And then the outcome of this yajna is the semen, and then this semen becomes the offering for the next yajna, which is the women. And in the women becomes the sacrificial fire, in which the ahuti of this semen is put, and then through all the dhatus that are there, you know, the sapta dhatus, the forces, the vata pitta kapha in the body, ultimately a fetus is formed. So this kind of knowledge that is there in the Vedas, and that is why, you know, you see that people used to have so many kind of yajnas to fulfill so many kind of desires. So it was a great technology, you know, that we lost. People used to do putreshti yajna, you know, yajna for rain. Even now people do yajnas, but that fine knowledge, that deep knowledge, now very few people possess. But what message that I wanted to give you is that our Vedas provide the very technology, you know, of what is happening. And very important thing to realize in this whole concept is that it matters, the kind of karma that we do, the kind of spiritual growth that we have, it matters in our future journeys. So this is what I wanted to share with you all today. Thank you very much. So this is what, you know, the forces of nature and the interaction takes place.